Hello guys, my name's Irene Cisneros. I decided to do my project based on the homelessness issue that we have occurring pretty much like everywhere, but I wanted to focus solely on the one that occurs here in Sacramento. I decided to choose it because a lot of the times where I go to do my homework, it's at the Starbucks off of Broadway, and there's always a lot of like camps out, like a lot of tents of people just living on homeless, so they camp out here under the freeway and all that stuff. And I've actually know somebody who lives in this area, so she tells me a lot of times how her neighbors try to call the police on them to get rid of them, and how a lot of times they leave, but then like a couple weeks later they're back under the freeway bridge. So what I've noticed is that I've seen this a lot through social media. I'm pretty sure many of you guys have as well. I have pulled up the video or an article that pretty much states how they're starting to bring in the anti-homeless spikes and how it's probably kind of brutal. So here I have the article pulled up that shows how these are the spikes that they're actually planning to build under bridges, under freeways, and pretty much in many areas. I haven't heard about Sacramento specifically building them yet, but there has been like a lot of defensive architecture that says that people, regardless they have homes or not, they're not welcome. Putting spikes up doesn't really touch on the issues of inequality and poverty. It pushes them away from the immediate vision, but it doesn't mean it gets rid of the homelessness. Here in Sacramento. As you can see, there's like camps here. They're probably always here. Every time I drive by, they're always here. I wanted to go and speak to them, but a lot of them refuse to talk to me, probably because they're not very proud of where they are living. As you can see, I'm just driving down this neighborhood, and there's like another homeless person right there holding up a sign. Guys, I'm at Cesar Chavez Park, probably one of the most well-known parks here in Sacramento. So as you can see, there's like a lot of like homeless people here. They're all just chilling and relaxing. But this is literally in front of the I think it's like City Hall right there. So as you can see, this is probably like one of the biggest like known parks for like homeless people. Every time I come here, there's always like groups of people. So there's always like trash and all that around here, like clothes. So as you can see, there's like a group of them over there. And they're just like relaxing. But what I think is the issue is that why is it that it's probably one of the best known parks in Sacramento, but it's heavily populated by like homeless people? So I chose to do homelessness because, as you can see, there's actually been that movement of trying to get rid of homelessness, but what many people fail to realize is that the ways that they decided to handle it is just kind of pushing the homelessness out of sight, out of view. It doesn't mean that they're getting rid of it. It just means that they're pushing it in ways that they can't see it. If the idea of out of sight, out of mind type thing. So I decided to show that not really doing that is gonna get rid of it. And also what I wanted to touch on was the fact that the money that is going towards the architecture of these type of things to get rid of homeless people is the proper way to do it, because that money that is spent towards the architecture and building of ways to get rid of them isn't really gonna help. It doesn't touch on the issues of like why are people so poor? Why is the levels of homelessness going up instead of down when supposedly the economy is doing amazing? But for some reason, over time, it's more and more people becoming homeless. And if any of you guys noticed, it's usually around areas where there's freeway bridges or there's just bridges. And around Sacramento, I'm pretty sure you guys drive around, you see someone with a sign. Someone holding up that, anything helps. A freeway bridge right now. So this is what I'm gonna do. Enjoy the video. You work here, right? And so I wanted to ask you about how the homeless people that around here, like, do they come around here a lot? Or are they heavily?
Many times you have come.
Many times.
Yeah, because outside is a AM/PM gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, like, how do they ever come in here? And
many times.
Many times. Yeah. And because I know people who live around here, and they said that many times, like, a lot of the neighbors call the police on them to try to get rid of them, because I guess they're just a bother to them. So personally, how do you feel about them being around here?
Do they? No. Why times you have come and but this side come and AM/PM side.
And AM/PM.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, do you ever feel bothered by them being here or anything? No. Okay. Well, I think that's all I really have. So as you guys saw, there is like a major homelessness problem here in this neighborhood. I interviewed the owner of a convenience store that's around this neighborhood. It's right off of 17th Street. So he said that, as in the interview, he mentions how it's like a big issue, how there's like many of them that actually come into his store and, you know, buy things. Okay, guys, so main topic on the video that I wanted is obviously homelessness. So I tried to touch mainly and to show you guys like the numerous amount of like homeless people, like at Caesar Park and at over there off of Broadway. And I even spoke to the convenience store owner. I spoke to a friend of mine who lives in the Broadway area, who knows the area very well. So in what I wanted to really touch on is how a lot of times when it comes to homeless people just don't really pay attention to it, or they do, but they kind of see it in a negative way. But what people don't really touch on is how there's social issues that cause these issues, that prevent people from having a home and being able to get something good to eat that's good for them. It's been a real issue, but people refuse to touch on it. So instead of actually trying to tackle the issue and to actually look into what is the root of the issue of homelessness, many people just simply try to hide it. And going back to how a lot of places and cities around the country are actually trying to build things such as the spikes to prevent homeless people from sleeping in those areas. And I think it's not the brightest idea, simply because that money can be utilized in a better way instead of trying to simply sweep them away out of view. I feel like that money can be used to properly feed them, give them some shelter, proper clothing, warm clothes, especially right now within Sacramento. We're having like very cold weathers, the rain. No one wants to be stuck outside in the cold. I don't think anybody deserves to be outside in the cold, in the rain, and not being able to properly even hide under a bridge, because people are out here trying to build spikes and build all sorts of architecture to prevent them from simply having something over their head to prevent from getting wet or staying warm. But I think this is the big issue that's happening all across the United States, not simply here in Sacramento, but obviously I couldn't do all over the country. I just did Sacramento. So I did also find a video that touches more on homelessness. So coming up
The system
next.
does not work. So anyone who's tried to get housing in the city of Oakland knows that 2 months is nothing. One of the mothers has been homeless for 6 years. So add 2 months to 6 years, and that is not enough time to find affordable housing in the city of Oakland, where the average one-bedroom apartment is $2,500 a month. The housing wage in Oakland is $40.88 per hour. that means there is no housing available to working people in this city. So it is not intended to truly house the families. If they were truly interested in housing the families, they would sell this home for what they purchased it for. They have hired a multi-million-dollar firm to spin it and get people, including the media, to think other than what is actually happening. It is very simple. They can get all of their money back if they sell the home to the land trust. And if it's in a trust, it remains permanently affordable in perpetuity forever. And that is the model that the mothers are pushing. Sell homes to the land trust so it will be accessible for working people forever.
So as you guys saw how there's also a housing issue or a homelessness issue in Oakland, California, which is out in the Bay. Living out in the Bay is a lot more expensive their living costs here in Sacramento. So I decided to choose that video because like she said, there's projects that are offering homes, but it's only for a time of 2 months, which is probably not enough for those families. Well, it's actually a group of mothers who have children, and they're trying to find a home, but they can't afford it because, as she said, the homelessness issue out there is pretty brutal because rent and housing is literally through the roof, but there isn't enough money that can help pay for those homes. There's like no one that's working class that can actually afford that. So I feel like we need to tackle the issue of homelessness head on, see where the root is, which is probably the high cost of living, but not actually being able to afford it due to the low cost of pay, which is probably not many people are earning actual living wages. So I feel like instead of trying to simply sweep up the homelessness that already exists by building things such as spikes to prevent them from being seen, is not the way to go. But instead utilizing that money to, like the other woman said, for trust, for homes that are affordable for everybody, not just people who are up at the top. But that is my project. Thank you.